Hi, Andy. Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. I'm excited to be speaking with you today.
I'm glad to be here, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
I would love, as a starting point for today, for you to share a little bit more about your organization and what is your role at the company.
Sure. I'm one of the co-founders. This is a 24-year-old, 55-person digital agency. So it started long ago. It was just me and my buddy. We focus on websites, web development, web design, and website optimization. So that includes search optimization and conversion optimization, things like A/B testing. So many, many years of those things. I mean, website visitor psychology, analytics, content strategy, AI. And this is also an example of one of those businesses that was built without doing any kind of advertising. Our go-to-market has been 100% inbound and content.
So you started in 2000 or 2001?
I started doing web in 2000, but we didn't form this company until April of 2001.
What was it like starting that in the dot-com crash?
Uh, you know, it was super slow and scary, except I didn't notice or care. It was weird. I mean, in
Mhm.
the very beginning, we had like no expenses. We were in my second bedroom. We were just having fun. Honestly, Andrew, it was a dream. I was doing what I wanted to do. I, I wanted to be a web designer. I had no resume or portfolio. And ironically, it's easier to start a company than it is to find a job. So I'm in, we were in business.
Why did you choose web design?
It's the intersection of art and science.
Mhm.
I wanted to do something that was both creative and technical. My like college passion projects with my co-founder, Barrett Lombardo, were like interactive comic books. And it was just a chance to get paid to do things that were interactive. So it was just, there was nothing else I really wanted to do. It was just super interesting. And back then it all felt very new.
Mhm. Did you have a vision back then if you're going to be building an agency with over 50 employees and, I'm sure you have dozens of clients. Did you envision it getting to that big, or is just a cool
Nope.
passion you're working on in your second bedroom?
True confession, no plan, no strategy, just do good work, meet people, take care of everyone, keep learning, keep going. And so it's really just,
Mhm.
probably if you sat down and did some like real business strategy and analysis, I mean, this isn't the kind of business you'd start if
Mhm.
you were web development's a tough category in a lot of ways. So these businesses tend not to scale. And at the time, I mean, that was like pre-Facebook, pre-everything,
Right.
so there was some of the largest big tech companies started after we did. So obviously, this wasn't a super deliberate, well thought out journey, but it's good.
Uh, One thing I want to talk about is, been around for 24 years. You'd said
Hmm.
inbound is the way you've generated clients. I'm sure you've had tons of referrals over the years, which
Hmm.
goes back to your marketing philosophy as an organization. Can you share a little bit around the marketing philosophy of your company?
Yeah, I did SEO prior to the era of blogging. So I had already been paying attention to that. And I'd done analytics prior to Google Analytics. So I was already using data and already thinking about getting discovered in search from back then. Uh, but when, I don't know, it's probably 2005, 2007, I started creating content. And it was fun to watch, but the appearance of content marketing on the scene was sort of, in my view, a convergence of search optimization, email marketing, and social media
Mhm.
combined under content slash blogging with data and iteration and ongoing improvement. So that moment was a change for me and for many people when I realized like, wow, I need to keep in touch with a lot of people over a long period of time. You only need
Mhm.
a website once every 4 years. How am I going to do that? Okay, I'm going to write something and I'm going to send it to my list. And it was just, I thought of it as blogging plus a newsletter. Then it became known as content marketing. And that, I mean, it benefited us having started early. We started doing long form content before many others. We started doing live events and speaking at events before others. We started doing original research before some others. We started doing video before some others. But that is, I mean, that drives our every lead we've ever had basically came from that strategy starting way back then. And the philosophy is that it's a contest of generosity, and the person or brand that gives away the most value and helpful, useful advice wins the largest audience and the most gratitude and loyalty and love and leads. So I think of content marketing as a contest of generosity, which is just sort of a beautiful thing in a lot of ways.
Is there a brand whose content marketing strategy you really admire?
There's lots of personal brands. I mean, one of my mentor sounds strange, but it's someone I've admired and become friends with, Mark Schaefer,
Mhm.
who has kind of very prescient, kind of sees ahead of the trends and goes big into his content, writes books. Watching Mark and his content grow was really impressive to me. Then also just a lot of people that you maybe have never heard of, like Justin Rondeau from Invisible PPC, extremely like data driven, humble, smart, experienced. Just um, it's not usually the names, maybe the most famous names, but I'm lucky to know Joe Polizzi and Ann Handley and Jay Baer and Drew Davis and Jay Acunzo and so many Dana DiTomaso, and there's so many marketers that I've learned so much from. Uh, it's a community, and I'm grateful to be anywhere near it.
What I heard in that answer, the question before was you seem to always be ahead of the curve and you always seem to be innovating. Can you share, one, the importance of innovation in marketing, and then two, with being so busy just as a human being, how do you stay ahead of all the trends that are happening?
I don't think of us as super innovative, although a web company, having been around that long, has had to adapt many times.
Mhm.
It's like mobile wasn't a thing, accessibility wasn't a thing. Privacy laws have changed, integration with systems and the way that, all the design trends, and there's a million things, right? We just always have to, you can't fall too far behind. That doesn't mean that we're inventing things or necessarily like innovating. However, when GA4 became a thing, I pushed myself to study and learn. I pretended like it's finals week every week and studied hard. Now I'm totally comfortable in GA4, love it, use it every day. AI, same thing. I saw that coming. We all sort of saw that coming. This wasn't, I mean, it's obviously a mega trend, but I invested a lot of time about a year ago in learning the best approaches, writing effective prompts, experimenting, publishing, making videos, teaching, speaking at events. And had I not done that, I think I would have a much smaller audience and a bigger challenges today. But having done that, it's really um, someone says, hey, can you come speak to this group about this thing or speak at this event or give a presentation or run a workshop? Absolutely. I have loads of super high value AI content. And if nothing else, I don't feel any FOMO.
How has AI impacted your business in the last year?
Well, it's kept us relevant. So our content strategy would have fallen behind had we not incorporated that. So first of all, you kind of have to, you
Mhm.
know, be part of the topics that people are interested in if you're, in content strategy. But also, I have found methods for using AI to evaluate deliverables. And in my shared prompt library, there are prompts that you can basically cut and paste along with like a full page screenshot or a link to a web page, and it will tell you exactly what that page is missing
Mm.
based on the persona. The trick is to give it your personas first or use AI to build a persona. AI is a sort of boring and at its worst, a waste of time unless you first train it on your target audience. I think it's absurd the way people use it. They just like write 10 words and think it's going to do their job. That's ridiculous. But if you train it first on your audience and now it knows who you're talking to, and then you have it write an outline or write a draft,
Mhm.
or then you give it an asset, a subject line, an article, a video transcript, anything at all. Now it's going to give you responses and recommendations or drafts based on your target audience. If you don't do that, I sort of joke AI stands for average information.
Mm.
Tastes like water. It read the internet. Of course it's generic. It doesn't know who your target is.
Right.
So that's helped me a lot.
Before we jumped on, you were saying you had a controversial marketing topic. I do
I
want to go back to that. I want to hear, what is this all about? Love to hear your opinion on this.
okay. I know this is going to be triggering for some, and I don't, and I want to be careful to say this so that I'm not overstating my point. But if I have access to 500 analytics accounts, and I'm inside of GA4 accounts several times a day, And if you look at the path exploration, starting from the end point of the thank you page, and look at the pages through which you're converting visitor flows. Your
Mhm.
next prospect, what pages did they visit? They often go from, let's say, the home page to the service page to the contact form to the thank you page. That's the most common path for conversion. In other words, your visitors are skipping your story.
Mhm.
Most visitors on most analytics accounts do not read stories. So I think that strangely, so my point here is that storytelling is actually not as imperative as marketers make it sound. Most of us do not know stories from most of the brands that we consume or
Mhm.
companies that we hire. Yes, stories are helpful. They help you get referrals. They help you become more memorable. They help create emotion and connection. I get that. Elements of stories are critical, right? You need to have people and conflict and resolution and
Mhm.
success stories and case studies are a powerful format. But storytelling actually, I think you can grow a giant business without telling a single story. I know that's true. I can see it in the data. It happens all the time. So it sounds so the triggering sort of controversial statement is that actually it is true. Storytelling in marketing is a bit overrated.
Where do you think it started from that marketers believe storytelling is the most important thing?
Well, marketers love frameworks and
Mhm.
storytelling is insanely powerful, of course. I grew up playing role-playing games. I'm going to see Dune on, tomorrow. I love
Nice.
stories. I read book. Yeah, I'm a fan. I love them all. I'm an avid storyteller and reader, and I have little kids and it's stories all day. So it's a framework, it's a way of thinking, and it's a way of teaching, and it's a useful thing. Of course, it's a useful thing. So, uh, but where that came from, I think it's just so easy for someone to say this is the main thing, and everyone kind of starts saying, yes, that's the main thing, and story brand, and I get it. It's true. It's good. It's good to do. But weirdly in analytics, yeah, go look at your last 10 leads.
Mhm.
They, you know, if they touched your About Us page, they might have been there for 20 seconds. It's so tell stories, but don't be surprised if nobody listens to your story. Visitors care about their problems much more than they
Right.
care about your story.
So is part of that you need to make sure you're putting them inside the hero's journey and, they're the hero, not you. Is that part of this?
That is the classic recommendation, right? That's Ann Handley. That's all the
Mhm.
people, the greats that I've learned from over the years would say that. Yes, definitely that. But if there's a useful framework here, I think it's that there are elements of stories that are super powerful with or without the arc. Characters. Every page on your website should have people. You should have faces of your team. That's differentiation. That's good. There's a conflict in the life of your visitor,
Mhm.
right? They're problem and solution aware, right? That's why they're on your website. So that conflict, that's an element of story that you can leverage. Uh, you know, Nancy Duarte and the secret structure of great talks, her like describing the new bliss, amplifying the gap between their current reality and status quo and where you're going to leave them when you're done. That amplifying that difference and describing, almost helping them visualize the new bliss, very powerful. So all those things are good, and they should be used. Uh, but think of them as elements and look for
Mhm.
opportunities to include those elements um, in showing the difference in the impact of your work or showing your humanity and having people around in that experience or identifying with their problem, understanding their problem deeply. But it's not necessarily put together as a story.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm saying it
Let
sounds like I feel super strongly about this. But it is
Let's
interesting, right?
go in one last question within this is I love the example of Dune 2. Everyone's talking about that. I think this is the third conversation today that I've talked
Really?
to someone saying, "Oh, what are your weekend plans? Dune 2." So, what was it about the Dune 2 marketing that drew you in saying, "I need to go into the theater to see this movie," which is crazy to think, in a post-COVID world, I just wait for it to come on, Apple TV,
Sure.
HBO, whatever, going to an actual theater, it's a commitment. Now it feels
Hmm.
like. So what about that storytelling and marketing is really driving you to go to the theater?
Maybe a counterintuitive answer. This is a franchise that's existed since the 1980s.
Mhm.
And so brands know this, movie studios know this, like everybody sort of knows this. The hook is that it was already a cultural thing long ago.
Mhm.
They did not take a chance on trying to create a new franchise. That goes a long way.
Mhm.
Everybody knows Dune. Everybody knows Frank Herbert. Most of us didn't read it maybe at the time, but everyone kind of knows what that is. I'm more impressed by, when Disney decides to create something new, like Frozen, or
Mhm.
HBO takes a chance on something new, like Game of Thrones. Like the new franchise is kind of rare.
Mhm.
Much safer bet these days. Everyone wants to extend an old brand, basically. It's a case for brand, really.
Mhm. Love it. So my last question today, Andy, is around marketing success. How do you measure success in marketing?
Well, I need qualified leads and people who contact us and do so in a way that where they're already quite biased toward our approach
Mhm.
because they've been exposed to our content for years. I've been following you for years. That's one of the most common things that our leads tell us. That's success because
Mhm.
they have tons of trust. You don't need to educate them. They're already interested. They've been waiting for this moment. We didn't know it, but they were kind of in the top of the funnel maybe for several years,
Mhm.
sometimes 5 years. And sometimes they've changed jobs several times in that time, but they've kind of kept us in mind. Or so that just this is also counterintuitive, but paying a lot of attention to high touch formats, video, in-person events,
Mhm.
webinars, like podcasts, like we're doing right now, at the very top of the funnel, trying to maximize reach up there and just work hard to give
Mhm.
away, just to be the most generous brand online if you can be. Uh, and not try to don't worry too much about being salesy or throwing call to action in or trying to get people to move. They're ready when they're ready.
Mhm.
People say like, what about frequency? Do I need to publish every week? The goal is not to publish every week. It's to make something that they remember for many weeks.
Mhm.
Do something memorable, different, exceed expectations, publish new original research, or make a whole series of things, or put all your best stuff into a printed book and send it to your top five, ideal accounts. So that's been very effective for us. Ironically, it sounds like, again, kind of counterintuitive, but hardcore, top of funnel, uh, deep content and big formats.
One example I was thinking of when you were talking about that is it's a brand that I love. His name is David Goggins, if you've run into him over the years.
Oh, yeah, the
Uh,
the uh the Marine guy who does all the
Yeah,
chin-ups.
you're
Yeah.
right, right. So he'll pop up on Instagram maybe once a month with a video, but it's so good that less is more in that case. And it fits his personality too. It's a 2 minute, just super impactful, get you pumped up for the day, and it's fantastic.
I'll tell you, I knew who you were talking about. I've never seen any of his content, but I've heard people talk about it.
If you like
There's your
him, you
point.
love him. Or if you know of
Yeah,
him, you
yeah,
follow him a
people
little
talk
bit, you
about
love
that
him.
guy. They're like, "Oh, I love that guy." Like I've never seen it, but I've heard about him from several people. That's the difference. It's the difference between the best stuff and the second best stuff is like 100x.
Mhm.
So people like, oh, how can I, make something a little bit better, and I'm an optimizer, like I've already said, like, so I'm looking for like incremental improvements frequently, but take a minute, slow down and say something we've done it several times already here, that they're not expecting or say something, dig deep and stick your neck out a little bit, like take a stand on something, say what you believe, be disarmingly authentic or in, there's a it's not that hard to be in the top 1%.
Mhm.
You just have to be a little bit more inside out and share you know your views and emotions.
Mhm. So Andy, last thing for today is can you share best ways to follow up with you, learn more about your organization, any links, social media handles, anything you want to share?
Sure. My best social media network is LinkedIn. I have it changed. I have it set right now so that the button says follow. If you click the three dots, you can go to connect. Just feel free to connect to me if you want to engage. Drop me a line, ask me a question. Orbitmedia.com is where I post all my newest and original stuff. I write an article once every 2 weeks. I'm also active on YouTube. I've got a book on Amazon, but mostly it's LinkedIn and on my blog.
Perfect, Andy. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Andrew. This was fun.
Thank you for sharing your time with us at the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation and would like to hear specific digital marketing topics discussed in the future episodes, please leave a review on iTunes or comment on our website at notypicalmoments.com. Don't forget to share today's episode with anyone looking to grow their business or themselves.